My parents disowned me for dropping out of law school, now they're begging for a seat at my wedding to a millionaire. I'm a 23-year-old woman, and I come from what you'd call a deeply dysfunctional family. My upbringing was soaked in toxicity, and even though I cut ties with them years ago, the damage they caused still clings to me. It seeps into my everyday life, dragging down my productivity and peace of mind. To give you some context, my dad, who's 56 now, was a top student back in his day. He graduated with honors from some of the most prestigious schools. It was during those years that he met my mom. She was stunning, really, the kind of beauty that turned heads. At the time, she was working as a waitress at a fancy little cafe. They hit it off and ended up getting married. It was the classic cliché, successful man marries the beautiful woman. But good looks and a fat paycheck don't make a marriage work. Behind closed doors, their relationship was a disaster. From the outside, they looked like this picture-perfect power couple, the kind people envied. But on the inside? Total chaos. Now, my dad, he's got this old-school, sexist mindset that's honestly hard to stomach. In his eyes, a woman's purpose is to be pretty, clean the house, and pop out babies, preferably lots of them. And my mom, well, she didn't really have a choice. She tried to give him what he wanted, but she struggled with infertility. Instead of supporting her, my dad blamed her. He refused to see a doctor, saying women had been having babies without medical help for centuries, so why should she need it? From what I've been told, my mom was absolutely miserable. Their marriage was already falling apart, but his obsession with having a child, specifically a son, pushed things to a breaking point. He wouldn't consider divorce, though. Too worried about what people would say. He clung to tradition like it was a life raft. Eventually, they had a child. Just one. And that child was me. A girl. That crushed him. After everything, the only thing he got was a daughter. The disappointment on his face was something I remember vividly, even from a young age. I used to ask my mom why he seemed to dislike me so much. Every time, she came up with a different excuse: he's just tired, he's got a lot on his mind, that sort of thing. Over time, I got used to being ignored or treated like I didn't matter. But then, something changed. Out of the blue, he started talking to me more, trying to connect, acting like he wanted to be my best friend. At first, it freaked me out. I didn't trust it. But eventually, I started enjoying the attention. I felt special. I felt seen. But it wasn't love, not the kind a father should have for his daughter. He didn't suddenly see me as his child and want a bond. No. What he saw was someone smart. I was bright in school, picked things up quickly, and people always said I was gifted. And to him, that mattered more than anything. He had wanted a brilliant son, but instead, he got a brilliant daughter. And suddenly, that was good enough. I became the center of his universe, but only as long as I kept performing. I worked so hard to keep his approval. Straight A's, honors lists, those became my way of getting love. If I did well, he'd show up. He'd leave work early, spend time with me, even brag about me. But if I slipped up, he'd pull away. Work late, ignore me for days. It felt like love was something I had to earn, and if I ever stopped being impressive, I'd lose it. It messed with my head. Emotionally, mentally, it tore me up. But that's just how it was. I didn't know any different. My mom never stepped in. She just watched, knowing exactly how much it hurt me, but saying nothing. She didn't have it in her to fight for me. So I dealt with it alone. This went on for years. My dad had everything planned out for me: my future, my career, the reputation I'd bring to the family name. When I was 12, he sat me down and told me, point blank, that he wanted me to become a lawyer and, one day, a senator. That was his dream, and if I was a good daughter, I'd make it happen. I remember feeling like the ground had dropped out from under me. I still get chills when I think about that conversation. The pressure was unbearable. From then on, everything in my life revolved around law and politics. There was no space for my own dreams or hobbies. My path was already carved out, and my only job was to walk it. So I did. I worked harder than ever and managed to land a scholarship at a great college. My dad was over the moon. He couldn't stop talking about me to anyone who would listen. And I was proud too, not just for myself, but because I'd finally done something that made him truly proud of me. His dream was coming true, and so I thought maybe mine was too. But once I got to college, things shifted. I started making friends, and for the first time, I felt like I could just breathe. I wasn't under constant surveillance. That's when it hit me: life isn't supposed to be about constantly proving yourself to your parents. There's supposed to be more to you than just being someone's child. There's supposed to be a you in there somewhere. And I guess I snapped. I went off the rails. I stopped studying, started skipping classes, failed exams. It was like I was trying to cram 18 years of missed freedom into a few months. Naturally, I couldn't keep up. Instead, I started exploring things that actually made me happy. I picked up badminton, started vlogging with a friend of mine, Kylie. We were just doing it for fun, but then the pandemic hit during our second year, and everything changed again. We got stuck in our hostel for an entire semester, and online classes were a mess. No one knew what was going on. So I threw myself into the vlogging. Turns out, people liked what we were doing. Our subscriber count exploded across multiple platforms. We even started gaining traction on Instagram and TikTok. It felt incredible. For the first time in my life, I was doing something because I wanted to, not because someone else told me to. Meanwhile, I stopped calling home. I wasn't logging into classes, my grades were tanking, and honestly, I didn't care. I was too busy chasing something that finally felt real. It was a complete train wreck from an academic standpoint, but emotionally, it felt like freedom. Eventually, our channel started bringing in money. We were getting sponsorships, doing product placements, and even had a few small businesses reach out to collaborate. Things were really picking up for us. That's when I made the decision to drop out of college. I knew deep down that law was never something I was passionate about. I didn't have the energy or the desire to keep dragging myself through a life built around my dad's ambitions. Honestly, it wasn't some carefully thought-out move. It was impulsive. But I didn't care. I didn't even tell my parents. At that point, the resentment I felt toward them had festered into something deep. I hated how they'd robbed me of my childhood and my teenage years. I just wanted to break free from their grip and their expectations. Because of COVID, the official withdrawal paperwork took a while to go through, but once it did, I felt like I could finally breathe again. Kylie ended up dropping out too. We got ourselves a small apartment and poured everything we had into making content. Only after I officially left school did I tell my family, mainly because I didn't want them interfering in the decision. And as expected, it exploded into chaos. The moment I broke the news, my dad absolutely lost it. I'd never heard him scream that way before. He unleashed a storm of insults, cursed me out like I was the worst thing that ever happened to him. Then, like clockwork, he turned on my mom, blaming her for raising a daughter like me, and followed that up with his usual rant about how women were all useless. That ugly misogyny of his? It had never really gone anywhere, it was just hiding under the surface, waiting to come out. He told me I'd be the biggest disgrace our family had ever seen. That I was nothing more than trash in his eyes. And he made it clear he wanted nothing to do with me ever again. In his words, I was no longer his daughter. It was brutal. Emotionally, I was wrecked. But looking back, I see it now as a blessing. I never had the courage to cut him off completely, but he made that decision for me. And honestly, if he hadn't, I might have still been stuck in that endless cycle of trying to earn his love. The first few months after that weren't easy. COVID made everything harder, and building a business from the ground up isn't exactly a walk in the park. But Kylie and I kept going. Slowly but surely, we built something real. We carved out a name for ourselves in the travel content space. Once the pandemic restrictions eased, things took off for us. We started making way more money than I ever thought possible. For the first time in my life, I felt proud of where I was and what I had built with zero help from anyone back home. Then, about 2 years ago, I took a trip to South Africa and met someone. We clicked almost instantly. Things got serious pretty fast, and even after I came back to the States, we managed to keep it going long distance for a while. Eventually, he moved here, and from then on, we've been rock solid. It didn't take long for me to realize he was the one. I wanted to spend my life with him. He knows everything about my family, the past, the pain, all of it. And despite all that baggage, he's been my biggest source of strength. For the first time, I understood what unconditional love actually feels like. He's got a corporate job at a big firm, very stable and respectable by society's standards. But what sets him apart is that he respects me, my work, my hustle, my story. He's nothing like my dad. We're getting married soon, and I'm over the moon about it. I posted about our engagement on social media, and it got a lot of attention. I even tagged him in the post, and I think that's how my parents found out. Suddenly, I wasn't the black sheep anymore. I was the prodigal daughter returning, simply because I was doing what a woman is supposed to do, marrying a respectable man. Just like that, I was my father's favorite again. He started flooding my inbox emails, DMs, text messages, begging for a fresh start. He wanted us to pretend the past never happened, to move forward as a family. But I could see right through it. He didn't care about me, he cared about appearances. Most days, I didn't even open the messages. I just couldn't bring myself to entertain it. Still, I'd be lying if I said a part of me didn't want revenge. Not the petty kind, but the kind where he'd finally feel the sting of all the years he stole from me. I talked to my fiancé about it, and he told me he'd support whatever I chose to do so long as I didn't end up hurting myself in the process. We started planning the wedding, and I told my parents they were invited. My dad immediately assumed he'd be the one walking me down the aisle. I shut that down fast. I told him he should be grateful I was even allowing him to be there at all. That quieted him down real quick. I had my revenge planned, and I was going to make sure it hit where it hurt the most, his precious reputation. The wedding day came, and it was everything I dreamed of. No drama, no chaos, just love, celebration, and the man who taught me what real partnership looks like. My dad tried to pull a stunt by standing up during dinner to make a toast. But Kylie, bless her, shut it down fast. Told him to sit right back down. It was awkward for him, but hilarious for me. After the ceremony, my mother pulled me aside to offer marriage advice. I told her to save it. She was never a wife, just a doormat. I reminded her the only reason she was even there was because Dad begged me to invite her, and I decided, once again, to be the bigger person. She walked away in tears, but I didn't feel bad. I had cried for years as a child, and she never once comforted me. She was always too busy trying to keep my father happy. When the wedding was over, I set my final plan in motion. The goal? Ruin his image. The only thing my dad ever truly cared about was what people thought of him. So that's where I hit. I'd been sharing our wedding journey on my channel for months, from the planning to the dress fittings. Naturally, the wedding video had to go up. But this time? I had a little something extra in store. I started the wedding video with a simple line, "It was the happiest day of my life," and I felt incredibly grateful to share it with the one person who taught me what love truly is. Then, I opened up. Completely. I shared my whole story with my audience, every dark corner of my childhood. I talked about the emotional abuse I went through at the hands of my father. I laid out how my mother stood by silently, watching it all happen, never once speaking up, never trying to stop it. That section of the video was raw, honest, and painfully emotional. I broke down more than once while filming it. I told my viewers that the reason I cherish the bond one have with my husband so deeply is because, for the first time in my life, I feel safe, genuinely supported. And I owe that to him and to Kylie. Without them, I don't think I'd ever have known what unconditional love and genuine care feel like. After editing, I posted the video on all our platforms and went to bed. By morning, it had blown up. The views were through the roof. Engagement was insane. Comment after comment poured in, and people were furious on my behalf. They called out my parents for everything, how poorly they raised me, how they'd failed me as human beings, let alone as guardians. It was cathartic. I felt seen. Validated. For once, it didn't feel like I was screaming into the void. People were listening and they understood. Of course, the fallout on my father's end was immediate. He watched the video and started calling right away. First one call, then another, then a third. He was clearly in panic mode, trying to do damage control. But I wasn't interested. He followed up with texts and emails, demanding that I take the video down, insisting I call him back. I didn't respond. Instead, I made sure to send the video directly to every family member who hadn't made it to the wedding. I wanted them all to know. I wanted them to see who my parents really were and what they had done to me behind closed doors. It caused a full-blown meltdown. I ignored my father's emails and calls, but I stayed active in the comments, replying to people who had reached out with support, love, and similar experiences of their own. Then the trolls came. Suddenly, my video was flooded with defensive comments, stuff like, "Kids these days are so ungrateful," or, "Parents always want what's best." It didn't take a genius to figure out where it was coming from. The phrasing, the tone, it all screamed boomer guilt trip, and I was sure my parents had rallied some of their friends to try and discredit me. That's when I knew my work was done. I deleted the video. Not because the negativity was getting to me, it wasn't, but because I had already accomplished what I set out to do. The damage was done, and I'd made my point. I posted a short update saying I chose to remove it due to the toxic responses it was generating. That wasn't exactly the truth, but I wasn't about to let them off the hook without knowing what it felt like to be exposed and humiliated. Was it petty? Maybe. Should I have moved on? Probably. But for me, it was healing. It gave me closure. For the first time, I felt like my voice mattered, that what I had suffered wasn't just in my head. That it was real, and it was awful. And if standing up for myself like that made me a bad person, then so be it. I had the choice to be the bigger person or to finally put myself first. I chose me. And I don't regret it. Update 1, my father tried going around me by contacting my husband. Now, Jake, let's just call him that to save time, has been my rock through all of this. He's always told me that whatever I chose to do was my decision. But if it had been up to him, he wouldn't have gone about it the way I did. Still, he supported me every step of the way. When my dad reached out to Jake, he told me right away. I was already stressed, and seeing that number pop up again triggered so many feelings. Jake saw that, and he told me not to worry, he'd handle it. And he did. Turns out my father wanted Jake to talk me into doing damage control. He assumed our marriage would be like his, where the husband barks a command and the wife obeys without question. The poor man thought Jake could order me to make the problem disappear. Apparently, the video had spread beyond just family. It made it to my father's workplace. Some of the younger employees had started distancing themselves from him. HR was involved. His performance was slipping. His mental health took a hit. And now he was desperate for me to come in and clean up the mess. Jake asked him, straight up, what he thought I should do. My dad's answer? He wanted me to put out a public apology video claiming I'd exaggerated everything for clout and that he and my mom were the most supportive parents a girl could ask for. Basically, he wanted me to torch my own career to protect his reputation. Jake told him he'd talk to me, then blocked his number as soon as the call ended. I'm not even sad about it. I've long accepted that my father doesn't have the capacity to feel real emotions. But I was still floored by the sheer audacity of his request. Of course, I'm not going to do what he wants. A small, vindictive part of me even considered exposing his request to the public too. But at the same time, I know I've already stirred up enough ghosts from the past. I don't want to keep them alive any longer than I have to. Jake and I sat down and had a long, honest conversation. He told me it's time to let it go, not in the sense of forgiving them, but in the sense of no longer giving them power. No more videos. No more contact. No more emotional energy wasted on people who never deserved it in the first place. He reminded me that I'd already done what I needed to. I'd exposed the truth. I'd broken the silence. I'd gotten justice my way. Now it was time to close that chapter and move forward. I agree with him. I really do. But there's still this itch deep down, this feeling that they haven't suffered nearly as much as I did. That they got off easy. I spent years being emotionally tormented, walking on eggshells, trying to earn love that should have been unconditional. One video doesn't balance the scales. Jake keeps telling me that if I let this anger linger, it'll start bleeding into the life we've built. That no matter how strong I feel, this kind of pain has a way of sneaking back in. He says karma doesn't need my help, and maybe he's right. Maybe I've done enough. Maybe life will hand them the reckoning they deserve. And maybe the best revenge is just living a beautiful life without them in it. A part of me still wants to be the karma that catches up with them. I want to be the reminder of all the hurt they caused, the walking proof that I survived, that I rose above it. Because in the end, I was the one who had to live through it all. That said, I doubt my father will try reaching out again. If he does, he'll quickly realize he's been blocked from every direction. And that silence? That's the only response he's going to get. No explanations, no second chances. What brings me peace is knowing that the world he once demanded so much respect from now sees him for who he really is. Update 2, my mom tried to contact me. I'd blocked her along with my dad, but she managed to get through using a different number. I picked up without recognizing the call, and when I realized it was her, my first instinct was to hang up. But she pleaded, just 5 minutes, she said. If I still wanted nothing to do with her after that, she promised she'd never bother me again. So I stayed on the line. She started off by apologizing. For not protecting me. For never standing up to my dad. She said she was scared of him, completely financially dependent, and didn't have the strength to fight back. She admitted that she failed me as a mother, and that asking for forgiveness now might be too late, but she hoped I'd give her a chance to make things right. It was an emotional conversation. Both of us cried. And as much as she let me down, I could understand now, as a grown woman, just how paralyzing fear can be. My father is a bully, plain and simple. Standing up to him takes a kind of courage that even strong people struggle to find. I told her the truth, I wasn't ready for a relationship. I couldn't just jump into a mother-daughter bond like nothing happened. But I was willing to give her a chance. Carefully. Slowly. I made it clear that if we ever reached a place of peace, it would be because she worked for it. She was the adult when I needed one. And she didn't protect me. I never felt emotionally safe around her, and that kind of damage doesn't vanish overnight. She said she understood. She didn't pressure me or ask for more than I could give. So we agreed to stay in touch, keep things light. I'd take my time, and maybe, just maybe, we could build something. But I also told her this was just between us. I didn't want anything to do with my father. I warned her not to tell him we were speaking, because I knew exactly what he'd try to do: guilt her, push her, manipulate the situation until I was back in the ring, cleaning up his mess. So far, she's respected that boundary. I hoped it would stay that way. Jake, my husband, urged me to stay cautious. He reminded me that my mom has a history of being easily swayed, of folding under pressure. But something in me wanted to believe this time was different. I wanted to believe maybe, just maybe, this could be a fresh start. I didn't want to rush into anything, but I did allow myself a little hope. Maybe we could mend things, at least enough to be civil. Update 3, I should have listened to everyone who warned me. You were right. I let myself get optimistic. I wanted to believe my mother had changed. And she proved me wrong, again. We'd stayed in contact for about a month. Things seemed okay, so I agreed to meet her. We chose a cafe not far from my apartment. I told Jake I wanted to go alone, but asked him to stay nearby in case I needed him. Good thing I did. When I walked in, I saw her sitting at a table. But she wasn't alone. My father was with her. I should have turned around right then and there. But I sat down. Part of me wanted to believe there was some explanation. There wasn't. My father started in on me immediately, accusing me of twisting the past, claiming I remembered things wrong, painting himself as the victim. I felt trapped, backed into a corner, and once again, my mother didn't say a word. She just sat there and let him run his mouth. 15 minutes in, I sent an SOS text to Jake and walked out. I went home, blocked her again, and made a decision I should have made long ago. I'm done. I gave her one last chance, and she destroyed it. She betrayed my trust for the last time. There is no coming back from this. I endured 18 years of being gaslit, belittled, and emotionally abused. That's more than enough to last a lifetime. I won't let them back in, not even a sliver. Thankfully, I've had Jake and Kylie by my side through all of this. Kylie and I have an exciting new project coming up. We're heading to the Balkans to cover 2 countries for our travel channel. That's all I can say for now, but just know, it's going to be a welcome distraction from the emotional wreckage of the past few months. I'm finally in a place where I know I'll never regret cutting my parents off. They've shown me, time and time again, that they're not capable of change, and certainly not worthy of trust. I don't feel safe around them, and I doubt I ever will. That chapter of my life? It's closed. Locked. And I'm not carrying their poison with me into the future. To everyone who gave me advice, thank you. I wish I'd listened sooner. But I've learned. I've grown. And now, I'm free. It is what it is. And now, it's over.